Hi, my name is Wade Iron. Welcome to Overby.ca. I'd like to thank you for joining us today to discuss benefits realization. I hope you find this series informative and helpful as you venture into the ERP project world. The objective of this series is to provide the reader with a foundation of what benefits realization is by major phase. Now, just as an aside, it's not uncommon to hear benefits realization referred to as benefits management. But for our purposes, we are going to be referring to it as benefits realization during our discussion. Now, the objective of this presentation is not a walkthrough on how to create a benefits realization strategy document itself, or how to fill out a template, but to give the reader an understanding of what the plan is at a 10,000 foot level. Now, today we'll be reviewing part 2 in our 3-part series, the project execution phase. Now, we do cover the other parts, including how to fill out the template as part of our series, but not in this walkthrough. Now, these are all the activities that are going to occur during the project execution phase, after the project kickoff, but before project go live. Now, as we highlight with every client, the templates that we provide are based on best practices within the consulting industry. Now, they are tailored based on experiences at the client level, but we need to ensure that you as a client carefully consider how to use the template to best meet your needs. Now, not every client needs to incorporate everything we provide. It's up to each client to carefully consider based on their type of project, their implementation partner, and perhaps most importantly their governance model, what they want to use from the material that we provide. Now, we'd be happy if you used it all, but we realize that not every client will want to or need to use everything we talk about. So please carefully review the material and select what makes sense to you. Now, as I indicated earlier, here's our first page, the agenda. We'll be covering the execution phase of the project. So what are the key elements of the phase 2, the project execution phase? So we've kicked off the project. It's time for everyone's focus to be on the design, build, testing, and preparation for go-live activities. So this phase is also a perfect opportunity to update the benefits realization tracker as you start to deep dive into process discussions and really start to understand how the process and benefits are going to be interacting. It's also quite possible that your benefit may change as the scope is clarified during these discussions, sometimes expanding and sometimes contracting when you remove scope. So it's important to remember that any scope change is going to impact benefits in some form or another, and we'll need to capture and plan for those changes. So as we've discussed, or as we've identified here in the slide, it's really the design, the build, code, test, and release, and preparation for our go-live activities. Under preparation for go-live activities, really the objective here is to finalize the list of benefits and all the contributing elements of those benefits, such as KPIs, measurements, priorities, and rankings. We also want to make sure we identify the post-go-live project team if they're not moving on from the project itself, and we want to make sure we complete the transition from one team to the next. Now, part of our discussion in the next couple of slides is going to be around the design process. Now, the one area that we are going to spend just a few minutes talking about is reviewing the benefits from the business case. The rest of the information we're probably just going to spend a few minutes going over, but the first bullet point, review benefits from the business case, is where I'd like to spend a few minutes. Now, as we get into slide 5, the benefits of the business case, this first step here is a fantastic opportunity to prepare the entire project team for their design workshops by reviewing the benefits that were identified as part of the business case. Now, this will open up a world of awareness to the partner and allow them to better steer the conversation in the right directions. Now, there are some additional benefits when it comes to the design workshop, such as helping the team steer the conversation in the right direction, as we've discussed, helping to prioritize discussions given the time constraints of the workshops. Also helping to get hard decisions made, especially when the effort such as scope or timing to realize the benefit looks much more difficult than was originally planned. So there is a significant amount of merit to reviewing the benefits of the business case with the partner before the project design workshops are kicked off. Slide 6, signing off the design. So if we're to assume that the design sessions are now complete, we should also assume that some benefits might have changed. So the plan should be for each group to go back and review their original plan and compare it to the revised post-design workshop outputs and see what differences exist. Now, once that list has been updated, the next key activity should be to review the changes with the various stakeholders to understand why the changes were made and discuss how the changes might impact the stakeholders' original objectives. In fact, if the changes were significant enough, an argument could be made that the original business case should actually be revisited or reviewed. However, if we assume that the changes are not significant enough to revisit the business case, the stakeholders should sign off on the revised version of benefits for the record. Now, just to clarify here, the changes that we're talking about are not just limited to the benefit itself. These could be the priorities, the measurements, the KPIs, and rankings. I mean, these are all fair game to assess during these discussions, and that's where the clarity should come from. Now, I did also notice we'll develop action plans to reach the benefits goals. That is one of the other key objectives, and we'll spend a few more minutes talking about that later on in the presentation. Now, in slide 7, benefits, the action plan, it's important that we start to craft action plans for each and every benefit that we identify. Now, some action plans will be no longer than one page, whereas some will take pages of documentation to specify all the steps that must be taken to bring that benefits realization to fruition. But action plans should also be reviewed with the stakeholder. I mean, it's not uncommon for a stakeholder to revise their targets based on the level of effort that would be required to meet those targets based on the action plan they're looking at with you. Now, it's also important that we look for opportunities to realize benefits in other ways. It's not uncommon for clients to identify a benefit and a KPI, yet through discussion, another approach is identified where that benefit can still be realized, and only approach needs to be adjusted. So the action plans do provide a significant opportunity to determine the best way to realize that benefit. Now we talk about slide 8. This is the time to staff the project slide. When we discuss the makeup of the benefits realization project, we need to remember that the old project team isn't necessarily going to be the new project team. Based on the size and structure of the organization, one or more of the project team members may need to return to their previous jobs. So therefore, it will be critical to get the right people for this new project and the type of deliverables and skills that it will require. So assuming we need an entirely new team, here are some thoughts as to who should lead this endeavor. Number one, the project manager. Probably won't need to be full-time in this project, but each case is different, so you'll need to evaluate that need. In my experience, the role post-go live is about 15 to 20 hours per week, but again, it could be higher in the beginning. Additionally, I'd recommend that this person be well known within the organization, have a good reputation, and be someone who's good working across organizational boundaries, as many of our benefits will cross those lines. Also, it's important that they be thorough and patient, as benefits don't always come fast. And it's also worth noting that this person should have a pretty decent level of process design experience. It's quite possible to spend some time in conversation how the benefit and the process fit together as the process deals with issues and challenges. With respect to the departmental resource, the best person would be an SME if that's possible. If not, we need someone that understands the various functional areas and can think outside of the box when it comes to solutioning. Now finally, transition is a tricky endeavor for any company. The key here should be to develop an overlap plan that has the old team providing knowledge transfer to the incoming team members for a certain period of time and ensuring that the new team is prepared for their new role. Typically, once the new team members have been identified, the stakeholder for that area should meet with the team member to answer any questions regarding their role within the project. Now, this is an important step in the onboarding process as it ensures that the new resource is comfortable in this new role and their responsibilities. Now, just a quick little tip here. It's not uncommon to get questions on things like compensation or other touchy subject, which is why we have the stakeholder meet with the new team member to address these questions or concerns. So another tip here is also to define the topics that you want to cover in transition and put say a check mark beside each topic as it's covered so you have some level of standardization. Well, I hope this has been an educational experience and helpful as you navigate through the world of an ERP project. As always, feel free to email us at info@overbee.ca with your suggestions or comments, and Pierre Bertrand and my partner and I really do read them, and many times we incorporate them back into our presentation material. Again, thanks for your time. This is Wade Iyer from overbee.ca.